The square was alive with laughter, and the air smelled of roasted food. Plates passed from hand to hand, and the sound of chewing mixed with the beat of drums. Elders lifted their hands high and said, "This feast is rich. May the one who cooked it be blessed." Children dashed through the crowd, their plates piled high, their voices rising above the music as they shouted, "More! More!" But soon the laughter thinned. Someone whispered, "Wait, this meat tastes strange." Another voice followed, sharper. "Yes, this is not like goat at all." Women turned to each other with uneasy glances, their mouths half full, their eyes questioning. A quiet tension crawled through the crowd, pressing the music down. Then came the bold voice of a child. "This is not goat. This is something else." The words cut through the gathering like a blade. Silence spread in ripples. The drums fell quiet. The dancers froze. All eyes turned toward the large pots that still steamed in the middle of the square. A young man stepped forward, his face dark with suspicion. "Tell us now, what did we just eat?" Murmurs broke out, louder now, rolling like thunder. Some shouted, "It cannot be goat." Others argued, "It is only meat, eat and be glad." Voices clashed, rising higher and higher, until it felt like the ground itself was trembling. Then, the sharp crack of wood striking earth. An elder struck his staff 3 times and thundered, "Silence! Let the truth be spoken." The crowd fell still, their breaths held as if the air itself had turned heavy. And then the narrator's voice curled through the silence, steady and haunting. "This is how one woman fed her village, the most shocking meal of their lives. Before the sun touched the sky, she was already awake. Her hands moved quickly, pounding grain, carrying water, sweeping dust, her body bending with work no one else would do. The rooster crowed, yet she had been busy long before its cry. From the corners of the huts, whispers rose. She works harder than anyone, but still her life is shame." Another voice added, "What use is a woman's labor if her husband squanders it all?" Their words stung, but she kept her head bowed to the task. Not long after, he staggered back from the beer hut with empty hands and a loud laugh. His stomach full, his pockets bare, his pride unshaken. He shouted to anyone who would listen, "A woman's place is in the kitchen." The crowd roared with laughter, clapping their hands, repeating his boast. He stretched his arms wide, as if he were a king in his palace. She stood in the shadow, lowering her eyes to hide the fire inside. Her lips stayed shut, but her fingers curled tight. She swallowed her anger as though it were bitter yam stuck in her throat. At the market, the wise woman called out to her, "Daughter, patience is a woman's strength." The words were soft but heavy. Like stones placed in the hand, she nodded slowly, her voice breaking as she whispered, "I want peace, not this daily mockery." The wise woman leaned close, her eyes sharp as a blade. "Remember this, a river that stays silent can one day sweep away a village." The warning sank deep, though the younger woman did not answer. By evening, the square was full again. He stood in the center, his chest puffed, his voice carrying above the crowd. "A woman's worth is only in her husband's stomach." The people burst into wild laughter, clapping, stamping, pointing at her. Their eyes mocked, their mouths jeered. The children caught the words and twisted them into a song. They circled around her, chanting, "Only in her husband's stomach! Only in her husband's stomach!" Their voices rose high, teasing, laughing, dancing in cruel rhythm. She turned away slowly, her steps heavy as stone. The laughter followed her like smoke. Her fists trembled at her sides. Though her face stayed calm, she walked into the fading light, carrying her silence like a blade waiting to be drawn. He staggered home with nothing in his pockets, but the smell of beer clung to his breath. The children's voices rose in hunger, their stomachs tight, yet his laughter filled the compound. "Palm wine fills my belly just fine," he shouted, stumbling as if the world belonged to him. Tiny hands reached for food that was not there, cries echoing in the air, but he waved them away with a careless grin. A man eats when he pleases. Let the night feed you. His words rolled like stones, heavy and cruel. The neighbors shook their heads, their whispers sharp as knives. This man will drag his house into ruin, one said. Another muttered, a tree that leans too far will fall on those beneath it. Their voices carried, but he walked with his chin raised, unbothered, proud. Soon he returned again, this time with another woman by his side. His steps were loud, his arm around her shoulder, his smile mocking. He did not turn his eyes toward the one who waited for him at home. She looked once, but he passed as if she were nothing more than air. Shame spread quickly, carried from lips to lips. At first it was whispers, then chuckles, then laughter that rolled like drums through the village. "See your husband," they said. "See how he walks in pride, while his wife hides in silence." The laughter followed her like a shadow that refused to leave. But in the quiet of her heart, she found a path. She gathered oil in calabashes and carried them to the market, her steps light but steady. Better hunger in silence than begging in shame, she whispered to herself, hiding her strength beneath folded cloth. Coins dropped into her hand, one by one, each one a small victory, each one a quiet defiance. She did not boast, but her eyes hardened with every trade. The market women saw, and they murmured among themselves, "She hides her struggle, but her fire still burns." One said, "The sun may set, but even darkness has its secrets." The man returned drunk again, his voice loud, his chest puffed. "A wife without fear is no wife at all." His words rumbled like thunder, daring anyone to challenge him. Yet she did not bow. She looked straight at him and asked, "Where is the money for tomorrow's yam?" The question cut him deeper than a blade. His hand rose and struck across her face, the sound sharp as a whip. It was not in silence. It was in the middle of the square. The crowd gasped, voices spilling at once. A woman cried out, "Even a goat is not beaten in front of strangers." Her words stung, but the men laughed cruelly, clapping their hands. "A woman's back is her husband's drum," they chanted, their voices mocking, turning her pain into rhythm. Children caught the chant and twisted it into a song. "She cannot feed her man, she cannot feed herself." They sang with cruel innocence, their voices piercing like arrows. She bent under the weight but did not break. Her fists trembled, her teeth clenched, her lips parted, and she whispered to herself, "They will soon eat his words." From afar, the old woman watched, her eyes heavy with knowing. Her voice was low, but it carried like wind through leaves. "A storm is coming," she murmured, "and it will not be gentle." She planned in silence, whispering under her breath, "The day of shame will turn into the day of reckoning." The fire in her chest grew hotter than the coals she gathered, and her eyes carried the weight of storms, not yet seen. She moved with purpose, her hands steady, her heart beating like the drum of an oncoming festival. She sent word across the village, calling out, "Come, eat, and see my strength." Her voice carried both sweetness and steel, and the people listened, for even whispers from her mouth now sounded like thunder waiting to fall. Curiosity spread through the paths and compounds, and neighbors murmured, "What is this woman plotting?" Suspicion and hunger mixed in their words, but no one could resist the pull of her call. They followed the scent that danced in the wind, the heavy smell of palm oil, bubbling in large pots, spilling temptation into every corner of the square. The blaze roared higher as she stirred the meat slowly, each movement careful, each breath filled with determination. She whispered to herself, "Let them taste the fire that has burned inside me." Voices rose from the crowd. "This smells like a feast fit for kings." Men licked their lips, women shook their heads in wonder, and children clapped their hands. "A dammer cooks for the whole village." They laughed, running past with excitement, their feet pounding the earth. The people gathered, their eyes wide at the sight of steaming bowls carried into the square. Their stomachs growled louder than their doubts, and their mouths watered with impatience. From behind locked doors came the angry pounding of fists. A voice shouted, "This is my feast, let me out!" The sound was desperate, trembling, but the lock held firm. She smiled coldly and whispered, "Watch, for your pride is now your prison." Her words were low, but they carried like smoke, curling into the ears of those who listened. The villagers ate with joy, lifting spoons and tearing meat with their teeth. They praised loudly, "Her hands are blessed, her oil is rich." The taste was strong, the flavor unlike anything they had known, and their laughter filled the air like the beating of festival drums. The drums themselves soon began, filling the square with rhythm, with celebration, with blind delight. Then she stepped forward, her voice cutting through the music like a blade. "This is the taste of my suffering." Gasps echoed around her. The drums fell silent, and even the children froze mid-laugh. She raised her chin higher. "You laughed when he shamed me. Now you eat his cruelty." Bowls trembled in hands. Spoons clattered to the ground. Some dropped their food. Others stared with wide eyes, their hearts caught between fear and confusion. From behind the locked door came furious shouts. "Liar, do not listen to her tricks!" The voice cracked with rage and fear, echoing louder than before. She stood tall, her voice sharp as iron. "The same tongue that mocked me now trembles behind locked doors." Whispers ran like fire through the crowd. "Is this meat cursed? Is it human?" Fear wrapped around their bellies tighter than hunger ever had. She raised her hand, her smile calm, steady as the moon. "No curse, no flesh of man, only goat, cooked differently." Relief came, but it was tangled with unease, and the villagers exchanged nervous laughter. Their joy had soured, yet their eyes would not leave her. Her words struck harder than any hand could. "Today you tasted not meat, but the bitterness I carried. You swallowed the shame you helped to grow." The weight of her voice pressed upon them, heavy, undeniable. Behind the locked door came another cry, weaker now. "Release me, woman!" But the strength was gone, and the voice quivered, like dry leaves in the wind. She turned away calmly, whispering, "The storm has passed, but the lesson remains." The people stood in silence, bowls heavy in their hands, their laughter gone, their hearts awakened to the truth. Murmurs filled the square as bowls hung half-raised, voices low and uneasy. "Did we just eat her anger?" one whispered, while another clutched his chest as though the food still burned inside him. Nervous laughter broke out from a corner. "She only fooled us with goat, not curse," someone said quickly, trying to calm his own fear. Yet others scolded loudly, their faces twisted in disapproval. "Shame! A woman should not mock her husband this way." But against their shouts came stronger voices that cut through the air. "Her courage is greater than his pride. Did she not suffer his cruelty? Did she not turn shame into strength?" The debate rose, anger and admiration clashing until the noise faded into a thick silence. All eyes turned to the locked door. "What will he do now?" they whispered. From behind the wood came a broken cry. "Let me out before they believe her lies." His voice cracked like a drum beaten too hard. The lock finally clicked open, and he stumbled out, shoulders low, face dark with shame. Gasps rippled through the crowd as his knees hit the ground with a thud. "Forgive me, I mocked you before the people," he said, his voice trembling in the dust. The proud man, once feared for his arrogance, bowed before the woman he had ridiculed. The crowd gasped again. "The proud man bows? What spirit broke him?" Their disbelief spread like fire in dry grass. He lifted his face, begging, "Spare me, Adama. Let me not carry this shame forever." His words shook. More fragile than the man himself, elders stepped forward, their walking sticks thudding like thunder against the earth. Their stern voices rose, heavy with authority. A husband's pride must not crush his wife. The oldest among them, his eyes sharp as a hawk, spoke with finality. "Mock her again, and exile will find you. The village will not carry a man who cannot honor his own home." Murmurs swelled through the crowd like the tide returning. Her lesson is just. Her pain was real. The woman's eyes stayed cold, her lips unmoved by his begging. "You tasted my suffering," she said, her voice calm and sharp as a blade. "Now, taste my silence." The words cut deeper than any curse. The drums that had beaten fast with laughter and dancing grew quiet. The rhythm fading into the air, the feast ended. Bowls left half full, but the story did not die. It lingered on every tongue, carried from mouth to mouth, whispered by children, repeated by elders. That day became a lesson told again and again. That pride can fall, that shame can be turned to strength, and that silence can strike louder than thunder. The narrator's voice rose strong and steady. "A man who disrespects his wife eats shame before the whole village." The words rolled like thunder, leaving no corner untouched. Echoes of the feast still hung in the air, and the people whispered, "Did we not see pride bend its knees today?" Their voices carried a mix of wonder and warning, a memory that refused to fade. Heads nodded across the square, some with shame, some with respect. "Respect is not given by force," they said. "It is earned by love and fairness." The truth was sharp, yet it settled into the hearts of all who heard. The drums, once loud with laughter, fell into silence. The rhythm of wisdom replaced the beat of celebration. Whispers that once mocked now carried lessons, passing from mouth to mouth like fire in dry grass. Mothers bent low to their children and spoke softly. "Remember, pride burns, but kindness builds a home." The little ones listened, their eyes wide, as the words stitched themselves into memory. Elders, with voices deep as old rivers, added their wisdom. "A house without respect will fall, no matter how strong its walls." Their tone left no room for doubt. Every man and woman felt the weight of those words press against their chest. Pride had crumbled before them. Humility had risen higher than a king. The lesson did not stay trapped in the square. It spread like smoke carried by the wind. "This story will outlive the taste of the feast," the people said, and they knew it was true. Every mouth that had tasted the meal now carried a memory richer than oil, a warning hotter than fire. The final words struck like a drumbeat in the night. Adama cooked not her husband's flesh, but his pride. The closing voice declared, "She served it hot with palm oil for all to taste." The people trembled, for they understood. This was not a tale of food, but of respect. This was not a story of one house, but of every home where pride tried to rule. And so the tale ended, but the moral walked with the people. It stepped into their huts. It sat at their fires. It lingered in their dreams. Long after the feast was gone, the taste of the lesson remained. A man who mocks his wife mocks himself. A woman who endures without fear writes her story in the heart of the village. Respect is the true feast, and only those who share it will never go hungry.